I'm at Divertimenti Brompton Road, and it is my pleasure to be speaking to Valentina Harris. You know, when we talk about people whose work consumes them, I think you are the poster child for that. I mean, you've written over 30 cookbooks?
47 now.
47.
47. How's that possible?
I don't know.
Where
I don't
did
think
that,
it
you know,
is. 47 cookbooks.
Yeah.
And you take people around Italy to show them of the food and all the wonderful things
yes,
there.
I do.
And of course you teach cookery classes, including here at Divertimenti.
I
and
do,
it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much.
But your work is just amazing.
Oh, well, you know, it's sort of, yeah, I'm consumed. I think that's a very good word for it. You know, despite the fact that I don't sound at all Italian, I can put it on, you know, if it helps, I can put it on. Usually it takes, you know, 3 or 4 glasses of wine.
I was going to say.
And then all of a sudden I sound like Gino da Campo's big sister. You know, it's very weird. But you know, this is completely learnt English from my very English father, who, bringing us all up in Italy, was very keen that we should have something about us that was English. Because, you know, I can't drive slowly, you know, I can't talk without moving my hands. I have this sort of compulsion to take off up a one-way street. You know, there's just certain things that you just don't shake off. But he wanted us to really sound English. So this is BBC World Service trained English. It works perfectly. It works perfectly. You end up sounding like a Radio 4 presenter, and inside you feel like an Italian mama, you know.
That's a
what I
great
mean?
combination.
So yeah, so basically I reconnect with the country I love, the country I want to be in, the country I miss, through food and cooking. That's sort of the raison d'etre, if you like, I suppose.
Well, what is it about Italian food that inspires you and continues to inspire you? And I know that's probably a tough question, but what can you kind of...
Well, first of all, it's what I grew up with, most simply, and my parents, who had, you know, met each other quite late in life, proceeded to celebrate constantly the fact that they'd met and that this great love. I mean, honestly, growing up with my parents was like being in the middle of Tosca on a daily basis, you know, it was... And we were living in Tuscany in this completely idyllic place with, you know, a beach out the front where we would fish from, and chickens and rabbits and a pig out the back and vines and olive trees and a huge vegetable garden. So not only did I grow up loving food, but it's the whole production, you know, from seed to plate, the whole thing for me was important. I mean, I opened my first restaurant in the family garden at the age of 8. You know, with one table, one chair, serving, you know,
it was
gravel
there
stew.
in your
completely there, you know, it was always completely there. And I think the reason I go on loving it is partly because I realised a while back that I actually am not going to live long enough to learn it all. So it's kind of an endless thing, which is quite exciting. And also it's about the ingredients, and I think that's really essentially what I love about it, is that you can just have 3 things, just 3 things, but perfect things, and you create a masterpiece, you know.
Amazing.
And I think that I mean, I was trained, you know, I trained for 6 years in classical French cuisine, and my official qualification is that I am a trainer, a teacher for young up-and-coming chefs coming up through the industry. So you know, I do know about the French way of doing it, and, you know, the classical rules of food. But when I'd finished that, I realised I really wanted to cook with my heart, and Italian food lets you cook with your heart. You know, that's the whole point about it, is that you're loving with a great passion these ingredients, and you're just putting them together very simply. It's always the ingredients that speak.
That have to be there.
I mean, there is a lot of technique. I don't want anybody to think that it's just throwing it all together and easy, because it's not, you know. To make gnocchi that hover on a plate like little clouds, as opposed to being the kind of gnocchi you can play tennis with.
Leaden balls.
Anybody can make those. You know, is a real skill, and there is a whole kind of alchemy to making pasta, which I'm eternally fascinated by. The way in which, when you've got it right, the dough contracts, and suddenly you've got a temperature drop under your on your skin. You can feel it, because the 2 proteins and the fat in the egg yolk create this chemical reaction, and you get this temperature drop. And then a bit later on in the process, when you're rolling out the pasta, it happens again. You know, I find that just, how can that not be captivating? You know, it doesn't matter how many times I do it.
It's
and whether
magic.
whether I'm making pasta on the bonnet of a car, in a field, in a vineyard, on a terrace, or in a fabulous cookery school, it always happens. You know, I just find that amazing.
Let me ask you a question. For someone coming to a cookery class at Divertimenti, what can they expect? What are they in for when they've signed up?
With me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, with me, it's all about, you know, we want to have a damn fine lunch or a nice dinner at the end of it.
That's
all,
our goal.
You know? And I mean, that's our goal. We're going to make friends. We're going to learn along the way. Hopefully, you know, you will be entertained as well. You won't be bored, because I think that's always not a good idea in a kitchen to be bored. No. And there's no reason to be bored in a kitchen. You know, there's always something to think about or do, or, you know. But yes, it's kind of, that's my way of instructing, is to make it user friendly. I'm open to all sorts of questions. I'm quite, you know, I'm prepared for everybody to make mistakes. Yeah. That's absolutely fine. And often, you know, I learn things from my clients, from my students. That's quite extraordinary. They come along and they teach me a little skill, and then we teach it to the rest of the class. And I think that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Really. It's that sharing thing.
And today, I know you're doing risotto.
Today we're doing risotto. Risotto was the first thing I learnt to make when I was a very little girl.
Was this in your restaurant when you were 8?
No, this was in the family kitchen in Tuscany. From the, it's a long story, and you'd have to buy the book to read it properly. The book's called Fiori di Zucca, and it's kind of my autobiography so far, and the family memories. But the guy that my father found living, eking out an existence on the premises at the end of the war was called Beppino. And Beppino was allowed to stay by my father. And it was a brilliant thing, because he turned out, pre-war, to have been the risotto chef at Savini in the Galleria in Milan. It's still there. And he taught me to make risotto when I was 3 or 4. And when I teach risotto, I'm using his words. I'm using his technique and his words and his skill, because it's my earliest childhood memory, and those, I think, are the most true. Absolutely. You know, and the most pure of all that you. So, you know, we do that. I mean, having said that, you know, 4 books on risotto later, several awards. You know, it is sort of what I'm known for. You know, they call me the risotto queen. I can get very boring about risotto.
No, I don't think so. But it's lovely to think of that legacy from Beppino going through you and then to your students as they go off and make risotto for their families and friends.
Exactly. And you know, I think risotto is a very good example of something that people get very worried about.
Yes.
They get very, very anxious.
There's the fear factor, isn't there?
Yes, because it's all about the texture being right. And I can honestly say, as the person who has eaten more risotto possibly than most people on the planet, that there is no correct texture, but that you, as the cook, need to take the responsibility for when you think that risotto is cooked. It should never be chalky. It should never have any chalkiness about it, or have any hard bits in it, because basically this is the sex bomb of Italian food. You know, forget panna cotta, tiramisù. This is where Italian food gets truly sensual. I mean, even the process is all about, you know, il sospiro, the sigh, the temptation.
It's so Italian.
It's all, you know, and the ripples that have to form on the surface, and the fact that the rice has to quiver and sigh when you add in your first lot of liquid, and it's all, you know, incredibly like, you know, like that, really. And so, if you've suddenly got crispy, crunchy, hard bits in it, you're going to spoil the whole effect. Similarly, we are not making savoury rice pudding, which I'm sure is quite delicious, but it is another dish. Yeah. It's not this
It's not
one.
risotto.
It's not the great legacy of, you know, the Italian rice empire, really, which stretches across the whole of of northern Italy, and it has been such a staple and is so important, you know.
Well, Valentina Harris, you have officially made me hungry at this early hour in the morning, and I have had breakfast, but thank you so much.
My pleasure, absolutely.
It's a pleasure to have you here at Divertimenti.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.